Welcome everyone to another Pirate National Committee meeting. I am the chair, Anthony J. Porter. I have been told that my microphone isn't noisy, but I'm getting a pop-up from Jitsi saying it is, so I apologize if it is somehow. This is April Sunday the 16th, 2023. I'm going to get some other IDs. First, we will do committee members, and then we will do observers, guests, etc., because I notice we have a few. First is Drew.
Hi, Drew Bingaman. I am the Pennsylvania captain.
Thank you, Drew. Next is Yari.
Hi, folks. My name is Yari, also known as Rose Klein. I'm the California representative and U.S. Pirate Secretary.
Thank you, Yari. Next is Mitch.
Hello. Mitch DeVillo of the Chicagoland Nye, the Illinois Pirate Party, Swarm Care Manager, and avowed enemy of Andrew Tate.
That guy has, I think, a 4-part video or podcast series of Behind the Bastards, so you can find out all about that terrible, terrible person and his brother.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think any of us aren't mortal enemy of Andrew Tate. I think we're all on the same page there. Anyway, we now have 3 guests. Matthew Crowley, I see you first.
Hi, Matthew Crowley, Florida Observer.
Drew's mic is indeed a bit robot-y. Yari said that in chat, so.
It's robot-y.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean?
Like you're cutting in and out at a really fast pace.
Just unplug it and plug it back in.
It's warbling. Is that the right word for that?
That's a very good term. That's a very good term.
That's an interesting term for that. I will be stealing that. Since Wanda gave us that term, I'll let you do your introduction next. Please give us your name and state for the record, Wanda.
I'm Wanda. I'm from Florida.
All right, thank you. And next, I believe we have another observer, V. Would you like to give us your name and state for the record?
Okay, yeah, for the record, Sarai Oviedo from Texas Observing.
All right, thank you. We're happy to finally have a Texas observer. I guess Mitch's meeting did well.
The American Mediterranean is real.
I'm so happy to hear that. All right, let's see. I could do committee reports or officer reports first. Let's go to committees. Does the IT committee have anything to report?
I think the IT committee didn't meet this week, but we have some more information on how we're working on dead links on the website.
Yeah, I was gonna say V's actually in more position than I am. Yeah, dead links on the website. Thank you for that. Amazing. I was gonna say I'm sort of hardly IT stuff anymore. I'm doing, although I the voting thing is the nominations form. Support.uspirates.org has been updated a whole bunch. It has a new look. It's fancy and schmancy. And then the voting form, or the nominations form, I should say, is... I haven't clicked the live button on it yet because I want to run it by at least 2 other people first. But I made it, and it looks nice, and it works. So, at least I think it works.
All right, thank you both Yari and V for the IT update. All very exciting, very good things. Platform committee, do you have an update?
Unfortunately, it has had to have been Joe's report. Joe has been heading platform these last 2 weeks, and I do think he's going to have to continue to. I think I have to step down as platform chair with my new schedule from work. So that's just heads up. Unless, of course, we move the platform day. But I don't want to fix what's not broken. It's just someone to lead it. And Joe is there but I couldn't. I still have yet to catch up on what the platform meetings have looked like for these last 2 weeks, because I know that they may have briefly touched upon LVT again, and I do think they did touch upon LVT again, but I know that there was a long conversation on guns, and I couldn't tell you what the topic and where the direction was going. So I still have to read over it. I will not be heading the meeting tomorrow, so it's just going to be Joe Honorowski's updates, which unfortunately he's not here right now, so no update for platform.
That is all right. Thank you, Mitch, for platform. As for outreach, we did not have any formal meeting this week, but I did notice there was some kind of grassroots swarmy graphics related thing that's been happening on our Discord. V, do you have any input on that? I didn't really catch it too much.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but in terms of like outreach, I know that I didn't show up for outreach either, but we now have a collaborative Canva and are trying to make kind of like SOPs, standard operating procedures, because it's another dev and I, and like high priority versus low priority versus severity in terms of like what graphics do you want, submit to form and stuff like that. So that was kind of happening too. And that's all I know. I don't know what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's more or less what I mean. I've just sort of noticed that some of you all have started to take things and run with them, and I'm just going to let that happen. I think it's great. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. Officer reports is next. Swarm Care, do you have anything to report? I know you do.
Sure do. The state outreach meetings went great. I'm very happy with how they turned out, and I'm looking forward to next month's outreach meetings, which will be the Heartland region. So if you're from Colorado, or if you're from Wyoming, you're from Oklahoma, or you're from any of those states, which we'll be sure to put out the poster for, Kansas, be sure to stay tuned, because we'll be having an outreach meeting for you in May, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, thank you, Drew. Secretary, do you have anything to report?
Yeah, like I said, mostly been working on the website. Did a little bit of updating on the wiki as well. I think what needs to happen next is basically a little bit of what's been going on with all that sort of collaborative stuff in outreach, but with even more things. So what I'd like to do, I know I mentioned this previously, is I want to spend some time once the nominations thing is up, getting on the getting a task tracker up for volunteers and for the officers, and also then getting some of the tasks, just like putting stuff up on it, because I think we could all benefit from that sort of organization. So,
Thank you, Yari. Speaking of nominations, this might be a bit of a sidetrack, but does anyone here want to nominate anyone else for a position alive since we're about to launch the forum? It's technically live. Does anyone want to throw any ideas around? Or will be live?
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll be live like within the next hour or two. I just need to show it to a few people. It's not live yet.
Yeah, so it will be live. Does anyone want to announce their nominations? Or are we going to keep that for the forum? Just letting everyone have an opportunity to make it an event. All right. Oh, Drew?
First of all, am I still like a robot or better?
No, you're good.
You sound great. Clean and clear.
Awesome.
Love it.
All right.
No warbling.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. Second of all, I don't think that we should taint anybody's ideas for nominations. I think we should just do them and then reveal later. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't want to, but I don't want to get somebody out there that thinks, I don't know. I just want to see how it comes in organically. Maybe. I mean, I might regret that statement, but
No, that's fair. That's fair. I was just letting everyone have the opportunity if we wanted any explosive moments that we could clip for that TikTok that we don't actually use. But all right, we will move
No,
on.
the explosive moment is sitting with our Praxis, and I love that. I'm here for it. Seconding what Drew said.
All right. I mean, I don't have anything to report for chair. I mean, I was told that I can technically count the fact that my 21st birthday was on Wednesday as official business, but that's all. So I don't think there are any reports there, Mitch.
I believe your 21st birthday was on Woden's Day.
Oh wow, that's fitting. I didn't think about that.
That's going in the notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a little too clever not to write somewhere. Okay, I think that's all of the official reports. Is there any further discussion or debate on the reports, or any reports that we missed? I will take that as a no. Moving on to old business, I guess we didn't decide. I mean, either of these items we have in new business could have been old business. Either way, it just depends on how we wanted to sort them. So we can go ahead and move to new business. First up on the list is USPP conference planning update. Is there anything we haven't said about our progress already, or anything that we need to add? Mitch.
I just want to say that I believe, I have to recount it, but I think we are currently 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away. It's something in that ballpark. I think it's 6 or 5, actually. So, that's not a terrible amount of time. It's not like right around the corner. It's not next week. It's something like that. We still have time to plan out panels. But I do just want to say, AJ, I'm not totally disagreeing with you in trying to at least get some nominations out there. I do think the praxis is still let's hear the voice of the people. But I do think we need to, if not this meeting, next meeting, if there isn't sufficient nominations in place for certain positions, we have to nominate people to fill them, and we have to have multiple candidates. Again, it's just I worry about it is all, just because I want this conference to go well. Oh no, I'm losing my flag.
Iyari, on that note.
That was amazing. Sort of separate actually, but along the idea of we have a timeline and we need to get moving on stuff. I think really the thing that I want to be thinking about immediately is signups for panels and who we want as people running panels, people running people doing events and things, events, I don't know, discussions during the conference. We had a sign up form last time. I'm sure I can find it, or someone can find it. If someone can find it, I feel like we could just do a Discord search for it. Like, I'm pretty sure, AJ, I'm pretty sure you sent it out. I'm pretty sure it was in the conference chat from last time. So if someone could do a Discord search for that, that'd be great, and just like repost it. Because I don't think the link is completely dead. I know we had it on CryptPad. Anyway, it'd be great if we could just like revive that form, refresh everything on it, and then throw that out to people so that if they have panels that they want to run, then we can source that, and then we can start picking and choosing and putting stuff into the whole schedule. And then additionally, I want to plant this seed in everyone's head is like, who do we want, pie in the sky, right? Same thing I said last time, pie in the sky, who do we want as speakers, right? If you had your choice, uh, and I think we need to think about that, and then we need to contact them. Yeah, because we got it last time. We did.
Yeah, I should be able to find the form or make a new one or anything like that. I mean, it's in my crit pad or whatever. What I will say is if we can get all this set up, if we can send the form out for panels, figure out those logistics, figure out who we might at least want as a speaker, do all of that, we can also send out a press release, which is, I think, a new thing I want to add to our workflow this time around. It's going to be a little bit down to the wire, just a couple weeks out. But since it's a digital conference, I think it's still going to be a really nice thing to have one, right? Send it to Independent Political Report, send it to wherever else we can. Be like, hey, our conference are these days. It's online. Come watch. So that's, I think, the new capstone I want to put on top of all this work at the end. Though that means we need to get going. So I would love to set up that forum this week if anyone else would like to help me, or I can send it to them, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That shouldn't be that hard to do. Yes, Yara?
Press release sort of timeline. I mean, what would that be, like 2 weeks before the conference? Minimum?
Since we're this close, as soon as possible, ideally.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of, let's not rush anything. But the quicker we get all of our ducks in the row, the more speakers or not the more speakers, the more tune in, the larger audience we'll probably have.
Yeah.
Anything else on this note? Yes, Yari?
I guess I just want to put a pin in this. Jamie and Joe and I handled most of the tech support stuff for the panels in the conference last time, and that worked out fine. I need to look ahead at my schedule and figure out what I'm going to be doing that week. But also anyone else who has experience with OBS, we can put together files and stuff and just share them around and figure out a setup that we can just share between everyone and then run through it, like do a dry tech run. But I think, anyone who has experience with OBS and a computer that is sort of reasonably capable of handling streaming reasonably fast internet, right? Reasonably consistent fast internet. That's probably the most important thing, right? If you have all that, it would be great to have your help with that, because as much as I have that and therefore the capability technically of being there to click the buttons for every panel, because it's not a ton of work, I don't have the time in my schedule to do that, because that would mean being at my computer to do that many hours of many days. So yeah, anyone listening and anyone here who has that ability would be great.
All right, last call for any action items we need this week for the conference. Drew?
Heck did I do? Wait, am I on now? Because I'm having a heck of a time.
Should be good.
Okay, good. Sorry. Do we have an email blast planned for the nomination form once it's live?
I haven't been thinking about that, but actually that's a really good point, and I think someone had mentioned that before. And
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if we put that on the list, I mean, obviously it doesn't have to be immediate once it's live, but once it's live, we should send out a notification to everybody. And I also want to be able to have the link in a place where I can find it easily, so that would be great.
For sure. Are you signed up at support.uspirates.org?
I'm pretty sure I am.
Okay, fantastic. Then you will be. Sure. I mean, I can check right now if you would like. But yeah, if you are, then you will be included in that email blast. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the reminder. I would have forgotten.
All right, if no one has any other things to say on that topic, the next up on the agenda is listening to Matthew talk about the importance of having a political director and what that role would look like in our current ecosystem. So are you ready for this?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, sounds good. I'll take it, or you can take it away.
Thanks. So, I know there's been a lot of discussion about what a political director is, what the job would be, who they would answer to, and hopefully I can answer those questions tonight. I do believe that it is pretty important to have a director type role whenever it comes to the actual politic side of things. I know this is a political party and we're all involved in that area of the United States, but having someone that is dedicated and that is their entire job, of course volunteer, because I know very little money to go around, it is very important, because if you currently see the officers that are currently on the board, many of them wear many hats, and that, while normal in smaller parties, can be alleviated if you pass off very specific responsibilities onto people who have the knowledge, know-how, and time in order to complete that job. For example, you have the chair. That is not only the chair, he is also the outreach director and halfway social media manager. That's a lot for one person, especially on their 21st. So whenever it comes to a political director, you have somebody who's there to basically run the nitty gritty side of setting up political parties, which it is totally necessary for every single political national party, to training candidates, because one thing that the main job of a political party is to have, train, and execute candidacies for office. That's how you get legitimacy. And 3, it's better to have someone who is answerable to the entire executive committee whenever it comes to these things versus an officer on the board, because it is much easier to get rid of somebody who can't vote on the executive committee and who's answerable directly to the committee. You can take your bylaw language however you'd like to get rid of somebody in this position, but it would be much easier than somebody who, like we've seen in other parties, decides to go rogue and just completely mess everything up. So whenever it comes to who this person's answerable to, I would suggest they're answerable to the entire board. This position would be directly appointed by the board, and it would be answerable like a committee chair, except without a vote. The political director wouldn't get a vote, and they would be directly underneath everybody on the board, so that way accountability is held.
So if I may, I think something that is important that is part of my understanding of what a political director is or would be, that I want to make sure is part of the definition you're using here, is that it's my understanding that one of the roles of political director would also be the person who more or less helps set the agenda, right? Like the person who can help take what the platform committee is putting out, take the core values, and help us adapt it into a political strategy that will work for each term. I mean, is that correct?
Yeah, you can think of it as sort of a legislator and executor. The legislator would be the platform and outreach committees, and then the executor would be the political director. they're the ones who have the knowledge to take what the platform and outreach committees want and turn that into actionable items, not just discussions that half the time lead to nowhere, but actual like policy set and executive decisions made, of course, answerable to the board. And if a decision's made that is not up to snuff, then that would be answerable directly to the EC.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready to take any other questions?
Sure.
Okay. Mitch, you had your hand up. Was that a mistake or?
It was.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions or any other point that they want him to elaborate on? Yari, I believe you were first.
I mean, I have, if we were going to actually hash this out and implement something like it, which I'm not opposed to the general idea. I think it's definitely, a useful concept. I think I would have a lot more thoughts. As of right now, it feels like we should entertain the concept, and yes, I am entertaining it. That's where I am, I guess, just to put that into the air. Yeah.
All right, Mitch, do you have your hand up for real this time?
For real this
Okay,
time.
then continue.
So, I almost dropped my flag again. So, my only question that right now I want to raise is that candidates or people that come to the United States Pirate Party, then you would be the one they'd be directly dealing with in your role. And would you be the one then approving candidates on behalf of the party? Or would you be the first step in the approval process?
So, I do believe in more of a federal kind of system where a person will be running and they'll have to get in contact with the state first. Basically, a political director is somebody who the states give their candidates to in order to give them basically the know-how of how to run a race. They give them the first step, like you said, of running their race. But ultimately, a political director would not be choosing candidates. They could definitely, again, whenever it comes to structure, they can definitely have a say in candidate approval and, but no, they're not the end all be all for somebody who wants to be a candidate.
Yari, I hate to jump in front of you, but I just want to ask a quick follow-up question. What would happen in the case of a candidate being approved of a state party, but the political director, which, by the way, for all intents and purposes, let me just say, I would so prefer this role being a pirate-themed name, which is why I'm putting forward Navigator, but that's beside the point. But if the role in question were to say, I don't think this is a good candidate for the national party, but it's already a candidate that the state level is already approved of, how would you suggest moving forward in that position?
So, depends, like I said, on the structure. If a state party is going to go full bore ahead and, give somebody their nomination, it then becomes up to the national to, give their own support kind of. Like I said, it would be directly answerable to the EC and then I would suggest that they would, go to the EC and ask them, do you want me to help this candidate? Kind of. It would all be hashed out in more technical talk.
I guess one third final follow-up question, and it is the final one, is would this role only be for candidates seeking federal positions, or would you also be taking a part in the role of people wishing to run for governor in their state or running for state senator, state Congress, or local?
So at this stage, I mean, this role could even be broken down into another role, which is a candidate coordinator, which would solely deal with candidates, but we don't really have enough people to break this down anymore. They would be the one who would train candidates, give them useful information, give them a step-by-step guide. If a candidate had questions, either email or however form of communication would happen, then either political director, candidate coordinator, whichever one, they would be able to answer that. So, let's say for federal candidates, yes, that would be the most dealt with directly, because it would be a national position. But there is nothing stopping somebody in a state from wanting to reach out to the national committee to ask for help, and then the political director would then offer that help.
Okay, Mitch, if you do not have any follow-ups at this time, I would like for us to go to Yari. Is that all right?
I've said my piece for now.
Okay, Yari, then Wanda.
I just want to clarify and ask Matt: is this a position that you are suggesting you would be would be something you would like to fill?
I'm just suggesting that it would be a position that would best serve right now in terms of expansion, because we do seem to be getting more state chapters started. You would like to have somebody who that's the only thing they deal with directly, and not like 15 other different things that they can get bogged down with. I do have something in the works currently that would maybe halfway stop me from filling this role. I've spoken to AJ about that. But if winds shift a different way and sales go not my way, then I would entertain that, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Wanda is next.
Okay, so I have a question, and that is, so this role would have like some sort of say in approving candidates, correct?
Not so much approving, more of helping candidates. Yeah. Yes, as in like getting them. It's basically somebody who has the knowledge of politics and of candidacy enough to get people started and guide them through their way. So how do you file the paperwork? Exactly. How many signatures do I need to get on the ballot? Do those signatures need to be broken down into congressional districts? You know, there's a lot of information that somebody needs to be a candidate that they might be looking up online and they can't make sense of it. So having somebody there who knows how to navigate these things would be an immense help, because the number one thing that keeps people from running is not knowing how to. So, like, let's say in Florida, you have to file 3 different paperwork. You have to file your candidacy intent, you have to file your pledge of candidacy, and you also have to file your treasurer report. Most people wouldn't know which forms to file. So having somebody there who knows that and can get to that information and give you the forms directly, it would be a massive help to somebody, and somebody who has the political knowledge of how to be a candidate, how to run, where to go, how to sit there and write a speech and things like that. It would be an immense help to people who this is their first time running, and they never thought about it before, but they want to put their foot in the race because the pirates are there.
All right, so that makes a lot of sense. So just to clarify, like, this role wouldn't deny people the opportunity to run as a pirate if they wanted to.
No, this role would have absolutely zero, let's say, real power on a board. It would be a support position. Somebody who's there to support the candidate. It's basically kind of like an intermediary between the candidates and the EC whenever it comes to information, and also kind of like a candidate coach, which is very expensive if you want to go out and get one. So it's a free resource that the party will give to candidates in order to help them out.
Alrighty, thanks for clarifying.
All right, Mitch, you are next.
So ultimately, this is an advisory position appointed by the board members, which this is, mind you, the board members are different from the PNC members. The board members do not need to be PNC voting member states. They could be people who never attend these meetings. This is just for the sake of clarification. This is not the people who vote at these meetings. This is the people who vote on these meetings chose as their leaders. They're the ones who are picking the position in question. And this position in question is just advisory.
Well, I want to clarify some terminology before we get to that. Instead of using board members in that way, I think it would be better to separate, and Mitch, you might want to reframe your question. The PNC is the voting members from all the states. And then we have the officers, which are not necessarily the PNC. I don't know if we want to use board member in a vague sense like that, because at least that was kind of confusing to me. Using
PNC
those two
member
terminologies,
states.
what do you mean?
Yes, PNC member states versus the elected chair positions of the Pirate National Committee.
So do you mean
So yes, this position would be.
Yari?
Yeah, in that sense, this sounds like a position that could just be, because it was described as non-voting. It was described as a position that was a support position and would be a position answering to the executive committee, which the executive committee is in all respects and practices the PNC, the member states, right? So what I would suggest is, when this comes down to the wording in the bylaws, right, when we create a position for this, that it be an officer position, and that there just be a point in there that this particular position cannot, I mean, there's precedent for this already, right? The chair cannot hold a vote as a PNC member, right? So we could just do the same with that particular officer. Also, I like Navigator.
I was just reserving my spot very quickly. I will say, I would advise us to not make too many things officer positions, I think it's okay for us to have advisory positions that are technically quote unquote below the PNC on the org chart. Because if we have too many officer positions, and these are specific things that need filling and have a certain amount of prevalence and are elected, I do absolutely think that the role of the political director or anything else we might have like this, like a candidate coordinator, is best served on as a staff type of thing on the level of committees, and that is usually how they do it. Mitch.
And actually, on that exact same note, not only would candidate coordinator and the position I said was navigator, because I can't remember now what Matt called it, but not only would those two be probably better as a PNC appointed advisory board, but I'd also like to, I don't know if I'd like to make the motion quite yet, but I would like to, at least for topic of discussion, consider demoting the public relations director down to the advisory board position as well. Because it is a board position that I think is going to take up space and time, and I think it would probably be better suited to have someone that we trust, that we're appointing as the, hey, what's going on, what's the image of the party like. Because I understand, AJ, the initial adoption and the reasons for it, but I think it may be better as a advisory role with this position than it presently is as a PNC board member position.
Retroactive year later friendly amendment, well taken. I do think that if we actually have some kind of, advisory staff group like this, then PR would be perfectly fine as part of that group. Drew.
So I would suggest at minimum that the navigator, my brain, I'm a little scatterbrained tonight. The navigator is the navigator because it helps people navigate through the paperwork and the bureaucracy of getting on the ballot. That being said, I think this role would also be very good to also absorb the state moderator position, and I'll tell you why. Because in this role, you're going to need to be interfacing with the state contacts anyways. So you're already going to be a familiar point of contact, but this should not be a board member. It should just be an appointed role that accepts those responsibilities, and acts as a point of contact and helps, get people connected, give them information, that sort of thing, as well as some of the other political director type activities, So, and I think the other thing that I would also say is an important role under this is also candidate recruitment. It's not necessarily approving. That's for the boards and that's for the states to approve and actually nominate. But I can also see if this role could very easily also work with candidate recruitment and then getting them hooked up with the right people. So, because the National Party and each state are not necessarily in the same circles with, internet presence and everything, especially if it's a lot of social media that ends up being more localized for states where the National Party has a national presence. So we can see in different circles. But yeah, I'm with you there, Mitch, with pretty much everything. But I would suggest that we maybe just consider rolling in the state moderator position into this as well.
Mitch, I will get to you in a second. Two thoughts. If we are giving the advisory group special pirate names, which, but I guess I can't stop it, then in order to make everything uniform, then we should probably bring back Jamie's idea of calling the PR person Scallywag or Swindler or something. He had a couple of suggestions. Other than that, what was I going to say? Other than that, then, if we are wrapping the state moderator in its literal sense as it's described in the bylaws into this, then that's just another good reason for us to work on what our conflict resolution system is going to look like in the future. That's all. Mitch.
Just out of fairness, I just wanted to see what Matt considers of the adding the state moderator role to this role. Just because you mentioned putting hats on hats, I just want to know if this is something you'd be opposed to, or if this is something you would agree with, or if this is something you think should be separate, or just your thoughts on the issue.
Yeah. Well, one, it's also fantastic that we're taking hats off of people with many more hats and putting them on people with a lot less hats. So if you have two people with two hats each instead of one person with four, that's fine until we can get more people to put that hat on. I have no problem with that. And as for the state moderator, that is kind of what I had envisioned in this. I know political director is a very vague term, and I don't like vague terms myself. They confuse me. But yes, as in terms of the point contact between the states and the, I just use the term executive committee, so that way they have a direct person to talk to if there are problems whenever it comes to conflict resolution, like Anthony said.
Oh, sorry. Were you looking for me to expound upon anything, or?
No, I'm just taking your comment of what you said and rolling it into what I'm going to say.
Okay. Yuri.
I think I'd like to make a motion out of this. I'm not sure if we're ready for that, actually. So I think what this is a I think this is a tabling, and I think this is specifically actually a suggestion to move this to some sort of committee, a temporary committee, to figure out the wording of this, because I think it would be useful to have this. And if we can have this for the elections or shortly thereafter, I think that would be really, really cool. That would be useful. Yeah. I don't know if that's not framed as a motion yet. And maybe that's okay because it looks like other people have thoughts.
Drew, you are next.
I was just gonna say that that we take a vote to. Okay, let's just put it this way. I'm gonna make a motion that the PNC sends the idea of the political director to whoever wants to write this up. If we have, do we have any volunteers? Just to officially get it moving. I don't know. Just
Sorry, Drew. Can you state that motion one more time for the record?
Sure. That the PNC sends the idea of political director to committee to select a political director. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's a little bit. That's maybe a little bit too far. To a committee to write a motion.
I would like to. I want to take a baby step here. I want to say that, Yari, since you said the website's about to launch, and if we are in agreement that the state moderator position and the PR position should be moved to the advisory board, that we, as the elected chairs or elected officials of the Pirate National Committee, will select and appoint. Just a motion
to remove nominations for state moderator and political director or PR chair or however, public relations director, whatever we named it.
Second.
Okay, discussion or debate. My first question is, are we fine with this? It feels like it's kind of circumventing the bylaws a little bit, but since all of this was made up by us for the first time anyway, then maybe it doesn't matter. Mitch?
I will say that all we are doing is saying that as we launch this, we will not be launching nominations for state moderator and PR yet. If we decide to keep it, we could always update the website. This is simply a position that we are saying if we are not sure if we want it, let's eliminate the nomination process for that temporarily until we can decide whether it is permanently gone or if it's going to come back. I just think that right now, just launching the website so we can get candidates right away, that's more important than trying to decide whether or not we should axe it right away. I just think we should get in the candidates we know for the positions we're going to have for the board.
Okay, works with me.
Call the question.
We'll just call the question. Illinois,
Aye.
California,
Aye.
Pennsylvania.
Aye.
All right, and as of right now, those are the only states with voting power we have in attendance. Passed unilaterally.
I just want to quickly scan and ask if there were any objections from the others present.
Take care of my baby.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Once again, all three voting members of the PNC currently in attendance. It is 10:09 Eastern Time. We are adjourning now. Thank you so much for attending another Pirate National Committee meeting. We will see you all next Sunday, presumably on IRC. Thank you again. Vote Pirate. That form is coming up soon, so get your nominations for officer positions ready. That's all.